Hey guys, what's up? It's Jessica. Thanks for coming back, or if this is your first time, welcome to the channel. Before I forget to do all the YouTube things, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Smash that like button. I wanted to come on here today. I actually hadn't even planned on recording today, but when I got up this morning, I saw a lot of things, mainly on Instagram, about how big COVID and this pandemic, how big of an effect it is having on mental health. And, that really just makes me feel a certain type of way, for a lot of reasons, because I think that it's bringing a lot of attention to the mental health field. And I feel like, me personally, the attention that it's bringing to the mental health field is something that should have been done a long time ago. And my hope is that through all of this mess that we are all going through now with COVID and with the lockdowns and with the uncertainty that is our future, that there will be some good that comes out of this. Like I said before in my first video, I think that the effects of the lockdown, not talking about the virus, but just the lockdown in itself, I think all the effects that the lockdown itself are going to have and are having on our mental health, on people that are in active addiction, people that are in recovery. I think that we are not going to see and realize the total effects of this lockdown for a really, really long time. But I am noticing quite a lot of people that have never talked about mental health before, talking about it now and being vocal about it now. And I'm happy about it, but I'm also sad about it, because people that have never had to deal with mental health issues their entire lives are having to deal with it now. And, struggling with your mental health is a battle unlike any other. Is just like addiction. It's not something that is very easy to explain. If you have problems with anxiety, if you battle depression, anything like that. I'm 40 years old, and I've known all of my life that I have problems with my mental health. I have major depressive disorder. I struggle with anxiety. I have PTSD. I have childhood trauma, and that's where I get my PTSD from. I also have PTSD from a few relationships that I've had, and there are days where it doesn't bother me at all, to be honest with you. And then there are days where I feel like it's kicking my ass. And there's no way to determine when it's coming or how bad it's going to be or anything like that. My addiction didn't do anything but make that situation worse. In a way, it kind of gave me a reprieve, because when I was using, all I was doing was numbing all of that. I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to deal with any of that, to acknowledge any of that. I just, for those 14 years that I was in active addiction, I just didn't acknowledge it. I was actively ignoring any mental health issues that I had at all. I can actually vividly remember a couple times in my active addiction where I would be struggling with especially my depression, and I would just use more. If I woke up and did my usual, because I was the type of addict that I wouldn't get out of bed unless I had something. It was very rare for me to go without just because of the way I manipulated my circumstances. I just didn't, you know, I just didn't allow myself to go without. But if if I would get up in the morning and use my morning dose, for lack of a better way to explain it, and I could still feel my depression weighing down on me. And, if I would go about my morning routine and still feel like I was going to cry, over whatever, because my depression makes me very sad, just like anybody else's, I feel like. But when my depression is really active and I'm having trouble controlling it, I cry over the slightest things. I'll cry over something that I read. I cry over a commercial that I see on TV. It could be literally anything. I can cry over somebody being nice to me. But when I was in active addiction, if I felt that, I would just use more. So, like I said, I was actively avoiding any possible dealings with. I just refused. I didn't want to deal with anything from my childhood. I didn't want to process anything from my childhood. I didn't want to process anything from any past or current relationships that I was in. I didn't want to process anything going on with my family, or any friendships, or anything. I didn't want to process anything. And for most addicts, myself included, that's a big part of why we use. I'm sure that there are addicts out there that are in recovery or that are in active addiction that use, that don't have trauma. But the majority of us do have trauma, and by extension, we have mental health issues. We have PTSD. We suffer with depression. We suffer with anxiety. It's just the majority of us do. And that kind of leads me to why I wanted to make this video today and get it out there, because I feel so bad for anybody that has to fight that fight, especially if you're dealing with addiction, alcoholism, anything like that, because it makes it so much harder. So much harder. You may think that while you're in active addiction that it's making it easier on you, and I certainly felt that way. When I was actively using, I felt like it gave me a reprieve, because it made me numb. That was one of the things that I loved about being in active addiction, is that it made me just not care, but I wasn't healing for any of it. And, it just wasn't helping. It was pretty much just shoving all of that stuff down, way down deep. And now I'm a 40-year-old woman in recovery, and I'm having to deal with a lot of things that are very hard to deal with. And I'm grateful that I'm alive and that I'm able to be here and deal with them today. But it also hurts my heart to know that because of the lockdown, that there's a lot of people that are out there that don't have, issues with addiction or anything like that. But now there's a lot of people that, are struggling with mental health issues because of the extreme isolation that we're all going through, being locked down, not being able to leave your house and go to the grocery store, or go out to dinner with your friends, or even just go out to work and see your coworkers at work. It mentally drains you. There are people that introverts, people like me, when I go out now, there's a certain level of anxiety that I have to deal with when I go out, because of my mental health. So sometimes when I go out, it raises my anxiety to a very uncomfortable level. That's also a certain level of my PTSD. So there's that aspect of it, but there's also the aspect of it that there's a lot of extroverts that from the beginning of 2020, we've taken all these people that are used to having a very outgoing, um, fulfilling life, and they are used to getting up and going to work, and then when they get off work they would go out to dinner with their friends, or out for drinks, or whatever, and now they can't do that. And when you take all of that social interaction away from people, it affects people on a very, very deep mental and emotional level. And it just breaks my heart to see so many people now suffering in so many ways. But it also, um, in a way, I'm trying to tread lightly here and say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like an asshole, because let me think about this for a minute so I can say it like I said without sounding like an asshole. Um, all my life, even before I ever touched my first drug, I've known that there was something off about me. I didn't realize at the time that I was suffering from depression. Um, but even when I was, young, I knew that I carried a level of sadness within me that was not quote unquote normal. As a child, when I would try to talk to the adults in my life about it, it was brushed off like it was nothing. As I grew older, when I finally was able to go to a doctor without parental guidance, I was handed a questionnaire, and it might have had 10 questions on it. And really, the only question that they cared about was the one question: do you want to kill yourself? Do you want to self harm? And I answered no, because most people are not going to say yeah, they do. Because most of us know that if we say yeah, we want to kill ourselves, that we're going to get locked up. We're going to be put in, like a mental health ward. And from my personal experience, that is not something that I had heard good things about. So I knew to answer no to that question. So when I got to that point in my life and my depression was unmanageable, and I decided to, sorry, I don't know what to do with my hands when I record. When I got to that point in my life and I decided that my depression was unmanageable and that I needed help for it, I went to the only place that I knew, which was my PCP, my primary care physician. So I went to the doctor. I filled out the little questionnaire when I told them I'm sad, like an unnormal amount of sadness in my life, and I don't know why. They hand me the questionnaire. I fill it out. My doctor came back in the room, and she wrote me a prescription. She wrote me a prescription for antidepressants, which, I'm in favor for. I take antidepressants every day. They've saved my life. I know that there are people that don't believe in them. There are people in the recovery community that will tell me that I am not sober because I take them, and that's fine. Everybody's got an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. That's fine. I don't care. I know that if I don't take my antidepressants, I go to a very deep, dark, dangerous place for me. And when it comes to me being in that dark place, or me getting up in the morning and taking that pill that allows me to be in a much better, safer, healthier place, I'm going to take that pill. And if you don't think I'm sober, that's okay with me. That doesn't bother me. But back to the point of all this, no other help was offered to me. So I didn't understand why I felt that way. It wasn't explained to me. I didn't have any other resources offered to me. And honestly, when I started taking that antidepressant, and they told me at the doctor and at my pharmacy, give it 30 days, I think is what they told me then. Give it 30 days because it's going to take a while to get in your system and you actually see the effects of it. If you notice any ill effects, call us. If you've ever taken antidepressants or if you've ever known somebody that has, this is SOP. Um, and I took it. I set an alarm on my phone. My best friend at the time, her husband would, you know, kind of laugh about it. We would laugh about it, and he would be like, "Jessica, it's time to take your happy pill." And I would take it, and it made such a world of difference that I didn't question it. And for a very long time in my life, I thought that that was all I needed. And then I started using not long after that. So when I started using, I felt like I had found an even better medicine, if you will, that helped me with my depression. It allowed me to interact with people without any awkwardness like you guys see me do now, without all the fidgeting and not knowing what to do with my hands, or um, it gave me a self confidence that I'd never had before. And all of the constant thoughts that swirled around in my brain, and all the memories and all the unexplained sadness that my depression gave me, and all of that, my addiction, for the most part, just buried. So, during active addiction, getting help for our mental health is bottom of the priority list. We do not care. That is not something that's even on our radar most of the time. There were times when I did think, oh, I should probably be in counseling or something like that along those lines. And most of those times when I did think that, it was because my best friend and I had started talking about something. They would ask me, something about my childhood, or we would be sitting around, something would come up about my childhood, and those conversations are usually um, enlightening for me and for the other person in the conversation. And then I would think, oh, I should probably be in some type of therapy or counseling, but I never did. I never did. And then um, when I entered into recovery and I stopped using, all of it just crashed down on top of me. Because when you stop putting all that shit in your system, your brain, your body, everything is trying to heal mentally, physically, emotionally. All of it is trying to heal, but it doesn't have that blocker anymore. All those opiate walls for me, that I had been putting up for 14 years were no longer there. And I didn't have that anymore. So I felt like someone had just come and just ripped me open and left me exposed for everybody to see. And that anybody walking by, could see everything that I felt was wrong with me, whether it was real or not. I felt very exposed. I felt very vulnerable. And that's not a place I like to be in at all. I don't like to be vulnerable and exposed. Um, but even during all of that, I tried to go and get help for my mental health. I knew that I needed to be in counseling. I knew that I needed to be in therapy. And I struggled with it. Not only did I struggle with finding the help, I struggled with it because it was hard for me to admit that I needed help with it, for lots of different reasons. For lots of different reasons. One of my biggest hurdles to get over was to ask for the help. My second biggest struggle, was that I was terrified that, and this is going to sound stupid to some people, but I was terrified that my mom was going to find out that I was talking bad about her. Because my mom and I have a very different recollection of how my childhood went. And I was, and still am to a certain extent, very scared of my mom hearing that I was saying bad things about her or my stepdad, and I didn't want to hurt her. That was and is a big hurdle for me to get over. So I struggled with that, and even then, like once I got over those hurdles enough for me to reach out and to ask for help, getting help, because there's always the insurance. It's a money thing, because it can't just be that someone needs help and someone out there that has the knowledge to help someone else can offer it. It always is a money thing, because nobody does it for free. And if people have talent, should they be paid for what they do? Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody does anything for free, I guess. Do I have a problem with that to a certain degree? Yeah, I do. I do, because I just have a problem with that on some levels. I know that we have to be that way because, economics and all that. But I fought for so long and so hard to just get someone to help me. And then when I finally was able to qualify for any type of insurance, it was state insurance. I'm not sure how you would say it. It's Medicaid. I don't know if that's like a United States thing or whatever. It's state funded. That's the word I was looking for. Insurance. So, you tell people you have Medicaid. There's a lot of places that don't take it. There's a stigma that's associated if you tell people you have Medicaid, because it's commonly known as poor people insurance. So there's another stigma on top of the fact that I'm an addict, on top of the fact that I'm in recovery, on top of the fact that I'm seeking help for mental health. Then I have to tell people, oh, I have Medicaid. So, it's just piling stigma on top of stigma on top of stigma on top of stigma. And then on top of all of that, then I'm like, okay, I really don't want to ask you for help, but I know you're already judging me because of all these other things, but I finally have enough courage to ask you for help. And I got to tell you all this other stuff. I finally get the courage to ask you for help, and I got to tell you, oh, by the way, even though I don't really want to ask you for help, I got to tell you that I'm an addict in recovery. I got to tell you that I got a lot of childhood trauma, and that the people from my childhood are going to call me a liar. And I got to tell you that I'm not some rich person, and that I can't afford to pay you what your education and your level of expertise probably qualifies you for. And I got to tell you that the insurance that I have already has a stigma attached to it that qualifies me as a poor person. See where I'm going? So, as if there aren't already 1,000,001 reasons why people don't reach out and get help for their mental health, there's more. But wait, there's more. It's like that fucking infomercial you see where they're trying to sell you some bullshit product that isn't going to work, but you still sit there and you watch the infomercial because you just can't help it, because they make the pictures look so believable, and then the woman's voice comes on, and you can't see her, but she sounds great, and she says, but wait, there's more. That is what I felt like. And that is what I have felt like trying to get help. My whole life trying to get help for anything that is related to my mental health. And that is what hurts my heart now, because every single person that is out there right now that is suffering with any type of mental health at all, I know that's what you're going through. And I know that the very first hurdle you have to get over, outside of all the other hurdles that you're getting through that you think nobody notices, outside of that hurdle of when you wake up in the morning and you think, fuck, here's another day. And now you got to talk yourself in to getting up out of bed. And once you do that, now you got to talk yourself into, am I going to take a shower today? And if I don't take a shower today, is anybody going to notice? And if they do notice, are they going to care? Do I care that they care? And if they do notice, and if they do care and they say something to me, what excuse can I give them? And once you get past all that, and you get to the point where you're ready to reach out, then you start butting up against this other thing, this public opinion thing. This stigma that everybody in the world has, even though everybody makes all these posts. When it becomes this big public thing about mental health. So, why am I making a video about it? Because I know how you feel. Because I've been there. Because I still am there. And to give you a little bit of hope. Because did it take me a long time to get where I am? Yeah. It did. And I can tell you that right now, today, I have one of the greatest counselors that I've ever met in my life. And I have met plenty of them. Whether they have been a counselor to me or a counselor to somebody else. I have one of the greatest counselors. And they always tell you that to keep going through counselors until you find somebody that you just click with. Hang on, let me get a drink. I also know through my own journeys that sometimes that's an impossibility, because here comes the money thing again, that sometimes you just can't fucking do that. If you can do that, if that's a feasible option for you, I'm here to tell you, keep going. If you go in, you sit down in a counselor's office, if you get to that point, and you're going to see your therapist, your counselor, your psychiatrist, whatever it is, because there's a difference in all of them, and something just doesn't feel right, and you just don't feel like you can trust that person, and you can't open up to them, tell them. Before you go and meet with them, sit down with them, write down questions that you want to ask them, because it's not them interviewing you. They're not the ones opening up to you. You are the one that is opening up to them. You are the one that goes in there and lays your soul open to them. So you are the one that should go in there and ask the questions. It's like you going in there and interviewing them. So sit down and write down the questions that you want to know. What are their qualifications? Have you ever treated people with the fill in the blank? Whatever issue you are going to get treated for. When I go and see people and I'm getting a new counselor or adding one, because I have more than one, I ask them, have you ever dealt with people that have childhood trauma? Have you ever helped people that have substance use disorder? Do they have addiction in their family? Do they have alcoholism in their family? What about major depressive disorder? Do you deal with people that have co-occurring disorders? Ask them. Ask them. Whatever. Because that's your right. Don't feel like you're being rude. That's your right to ask them. And I kind of went off on a little tangent there. I'm sorry. But there's so many people that are suffering now that my hope is not that so many people are suffering, but my hope is that there will be some good that will come out of this, and that maybe so many people are speaking up that maybe the field of mental health will get the light shown on it that it needs to, that is always needed to, and that the barriers that is always button up against will start to break down, because that's what it needs to. Because it's not like going to the grocery store and you're not like in your cashier. People that constantly butt their heads up against barriers in the mental health field die. Same as addiction. If you cannot get help, sometimes that's the way it goes. That sounds like a shitty thing to say, but sometimes that's the way it goes. Because people that don't see any other way out will find a way out. Human beings are not made to be miserable all the time. We cannot do it. Everyone has a breaking point. Don't get to that point, is what I'm saying. For whatever reason, if you are suffering, reach out. And I know it's hard. So I'm just here to tell you that when you reach out on whatever way makes you comfortable. If you don't want to reach out over the phone because talking makes you nervous, makes you uncomfortable, makes you less inclined to share, but texting you're more comfortable with, then just text. If you'd rather email, then just email. Whatever makes you comfortable. Sending a video. Sending a message through Instagram. I don't care how you do it, as long as you do it. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's your mental health. It's your recovery that's online. It's your health. And those people owe that to you. When you take that into your hands and you decide that enough is enough, and that you don't want to be that sad anymore, and you don't want to be that hurt anymore, I understand. I know what you're feeling. I know. I understand. So when you get to that point and you want to reach out, you make those people that you're reaching out to answer to you, because that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And if you need help, or if you need someone to talk to, I am going to put a way to contact me in the description box of this video. For those of you that know me, that have my phone number, reach out. If there is anything at all that I can do, I will do it. If I don't know how to do it, I will reach out to people that I know until I find a way to do it. If you just want me to answer the phone and say hello and then shut up and you do all the talking, whatever you need, I will do it. You just have to let me know. And I just want you to know that whatever you need, whenever you need it, I will be here. Okay? There's so many people that are out there that are suffering, and that breaks my heart. I hate it, because I suffered for so long, and I was so alone. And there were so many times where I just wanted to be done with it. And for whatever reason, I chose a different path. And I'm here today. And like I said, I have one of the best counselors. I can go in her office and tell her some of the craziest things. going on in my life, and she is amazing. I don't feel any judgment from her. I have not felt any judgment from her from day one. I trust her implicitly. I trust her. There's nothing that I would not tell her. Um, she knows things about me that nobody else knows, not even my daughter, and that's saying something. Those are the kind of counselors, those are the kinds of people that we need in our lives to help us, because when you start walking the path of going through childhood trauma and finding out why you suffer from depression and how to deal with it and how to manage it other than taking your prescription, because there are other ways to manage it and to navigate it, you need people like that. And people like that are priceless, because there are days where the medicine just isn't enough. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's why they tell you in so many different recovery communities, not just about addiction, but in so many different recovery communities, to build a strong support system. And I guess that is the biggest thing that I wanted to say in this video today, in kind of a long ass rambly way. If you need the start of a support system, I'm here. And I don't care if you know me, and I don't care if you don't know me. If you need the start of a support system, if you just need somebody to listen, if you need more than that and you think, hey, maybe Jessica can help me out, just let me know. All right, guys. I could probably say a lot more about a lot of things in this video, but I'm going to let you go. Stay safe. Stay alive. Test your supplies if you're still using. Remember not to judge. We all recover at our own pace, okay? But we all do recover. Reach out if you need help. Stay kind to each other. And I'll see you in the next one.